We have this dilemma. I need to watch the business side, and I don't want to lose my ministry heart. And that was one of the biggest questions that I found myself struggling with, going back and forth. Where do I focus my time and attention? I've made so many mistakes in my journey. And one of the biggest ones was not gathering enough information before I made decisions. Even though they have tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or millions of dollars to sow, there is so much need in the world. And they realize that they need to pause and ask God, where do I plant my seeds?
Trust me, I get it. You're feeling the pressure to keep your faith separate from your work, worried that pursuing your God-given dreams might be seen as selfish or misguided. For far too long, we've been held back by a world that tells us that faith and ambition don't mix, that our divinely inspired visions are just wishful thinking. But here's what I've discovered. Our faith isn't a liability in our leadership. As a matter of fact, it's the source of our strength and wisdom. When we fully integrate our leadership with our Christian values, then and only then do we tap into that unshakable divine power. The real challenge is navigating how to boldly pursue our purpose while staying anchored in our faith. And that's exactly what the Beacon Show is all about. Each week, we bring you biblical wisdom and practical strategies from true beacons, Christian leaders who are illuminating the world. And it's also that you can let your light shine brighter and brighter. I'm Tamara Jackson, and this is The Beacon Show.
Welcome to The Beacon Show, where wisdom meets faith and success finds its voice. I'm your host, Tamara Jackson, and at BEACONSHIP, we believe in the power of faith-driven innovation to transform lives and communities. In this episode, I want to talk about how to use your faith to achieve business success, attract funding, and make an impact in the community. Now, that might sound like a pretty big goal for this episode, but hang in there with me. I want to unpack it for you. You see, one of the big mistakes that I made starting out in business, and this is something that I see happen all the time, we get into business because we want to help people. And that's true. We can make a difference through the products and the services that we offer. They are designed to meet a need. At the same time, we have to remember that even though we have a ministry heart, there are certain business principles that have to be in place in order for us to build a successful, sustainable, scalable business. And that's true whether you are leading a for-profit business or a nonprofit, because every business needs revenue in order to survive. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see is because we have that ministry heart, we don't focus as much time as we need to on the business principles. Now, there's also a mistake that can be made to lean so heavily into the business side of it, the numbers, hitting your revenue targets, managing expenses, that you forget that you have a higher calling in your business. What separates you as a Christian entrepreneur is your desire to honor God in the work that you do and to make an eternal impact. So we have this dilemma. I need to watch the business side, and I don't want to lose my ministry heart. And that was one of the biggest questions that I found myself struggling with, going back and forth. Where do I focus my time and attention? And what I've learned is the answer is both. It's not an either or, it's a both and. And what I want to introduce you to today is a framework that I've put together to make sure that I keep my ministry focus while honoring the principles that I need to be in place to manage a successful business. I call this the GRASP Faith Framework. I'm going to break down each letter of the acronym for you and help you to understand how this helps you as a business owner or business leader achieve success. And then for those of you that are looking for more donations to scale your nonprofit or investors to grow your business, I also want to talk to you about how this GRASP Faith Framework makes a difference in you attracting the money that you need to grow and scale. So first, let's break down this framework. The first letter is G, and that G stands for gather information. The R is for reflect on the situation. A is ask God for guidance. The S is strategize wisely. And then P is proceed proceed forward. The faith piece of it is you're doing all of this to ensure that you are for alignment in the highest purpose, that you're honoring the highest purpose of your business and not just focusing on the numbers. So you're keeping your faith central in all that you do. I hope you are enjoying this episode of The Beacon Show. It is our mission here at BEACONSHIP to empower you, the Christian visionary, to achieve the impact that you desire to create in the world. So we want to come alongside you and provide the training, the mentorship, and the funding readiness that you need to grow and scale your impact. I'd invite you to join our mailing list where you can receive additional insights beyond this episode to build on what you've learned here today and take you to the next level. So go ahead, subscribe today, and we'll continue to keep you motivated and inspired to move forward in all God has called you to. So why is it important to first gather information? Well, this is, again, I'm throwing myself under the bus a lot in this episode and in the show because I've made so many mistakes in my journey. And one of the biggest ones was not gathering enough information before I made decisions. So what I have learned is to slow down and make sure that you gather all the information that you need in order to make an informed decision. If you're working with a business partner, check out their reviews. Make sure that you go to their website. Ask some good questions to understand how they operate their business to ensure that this can have the potential to be a successful partnership. If you are thinking about donating to a nonprofit, it makes sense to gather some information because you want to ensure that the money that you donate is stewarded well. So make sure that you do your research, your due diligence on the organization that you want to support. So this is where we are using our logic and our reason. We're honoring some of those business principles. But now we need to take a step back and reflect on the situation. So we don't want to just take information at face value. We want to give ourselves time to reflect and interpret the data. What is it telling me? Now you're probably guessing that at this point, hey, this isn't a fast process, and it's true. The whole intent of this is to slow down and give yourself the space to both make an informed decision and ultimately make the best decision. One that is biblically grounded, that is ethical, that is spirit-led, and that is thoroughly evaluated. That's the only way that you can ensure that you make the best decision is to slow down. The next step in the process is to ask God for guidance. Now, of course, we're always staying connected to our source and we're always looking for Him to direct our steps. But this is an intentional step to slow down, to pause, to not look at the numbers, to not ask our friends or our other entrepreneurs for guidance. This is a space to make sure that you're creating time to hear from God. So this is when you're dedicating time to prayer, maybe to fasting. You are also looking at scripture to see what you can learn from other biblical leaders that have encountered some of the same challenges that you have faced. So yes, Bible study can make an impact in your business. The next step is to strategize wisely. So now that you've taken time to gather information, to reflect on the situation and ask for God for guidance, now you're in a position where you can come up with a plan. But this time it'll be an informed plan. It'll be one that honors God because you've taken into account the guidance that He provided in the prior step. This also may be a place where if you haven't already, you want to seek wise counsel. That's another mistake that I've made in my business is making decisions in a silo, not asking people that had wisdom and insight to share with me. And that's one of the reasons why the Beacon Show is so important, to learn from those that have gone before you. Well, now that we've taken time to seek wise counsel, to come up with a plan that we believe is the best path to take and honors God, we can proceed in faith. It doesn't mean that the journey will be easy. It does not mean that there will not be setbacks, but it does mean that you have done your best. And God doesn't expect us to be perfect. He just wants us to be diligent and to slow down and make sure that we're involving him in every area of our business. Now, I promised that I would also talk about how this framework applies when you are in need of funding. Now, maybe you've heard me talk about that the way that I got my start with BEACONSHIP and realized that there was a connection between my old lending experience and being able to attract the funding for your nonprofit or to grow your business. Well, that all came about by sitting down and having conversations with major donors, people that are willing to donate tens of thousands and sometimes millions of dollars to a single cause, as well as talking with impact investors that literally manage billions of dollars for kingdom causes. But what I learned from these conversations is that they too have a scorecard, just like the one that I had back in my lending days. They're looking at things to determine whether or not the money that they donate or invest is being planted in good soil and is likely to reap a harvest. So what I found is that they're doing some of the same things that I have learned to do in business. They're taking the time to gather information. They're going to the website to see what is your mission, what is your message. They're checking out your social media to see what type of stories are you telling about the impact that you are creating. They're going to your annual report. Are you growing year over year, or is your business or nonprofit about the same? They want to know about your leadership team and their background and how they are helping you to make a difference. These donors, these investors are doing the same things. They're slowing down to make sure that they're making the best decision. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Beacon Show. You know, there are others like you that need encouragement in their journey as they are pursuing what God has called them to. And one step that you can take to help ensure that they receive the support they need is to rate and review. It only takes a few seconds and it can make an eternal difference. You know how important it is to have someone in your corner that believes in you and wants to see you succeed. So take a moment to rate and review today. They're also reflecting on any conversations that they've had with you, maybe in passing or an intentional meeting that you've scheduled. They're reflecting on the information that they've seen in the annual report. And because these donors and investors seek to honor God in what they do, they are asking God for guidance on where to sow their seeds. Because even though they have tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or millions of dollars to sow, there is so much need in the world. And they realize that they need to pause and ask God, where do I plant my seeds? They're also strategizing. What I'm finding is that many of these donors and investors don't just want to donate money or to invest, they want to be involved. So they're looking at the situation to determine, well, how can my experience, how can my background help this organization? They desire to be a strategic partner in your cause. So part of their decision-making process is thinking about what can they bring to the table. Much like the show that I love, Shark Tank, where these sharks are trying to decide, okay, is there something that I can add to this? Is this my wheelhouse? Is this my scope of expertise? So they're also strategizing about where they donate and where they invest. And once they've taken the time to go through their scorecard, if you will, then they decide to proceed in faith and make a donation or invest. But that's not actually where the journey ends. I can remember an article that I read where this baby boomer in their 70s had decided to donate to a particular cause. And they actually decided, you know what, I'm not 100% sure about whether or not I should support this organization. It seems like things are lining up, but I'm going to put in place a test. So they decided to donate a much lower number. I'm just going to donate a few $1,000s and see what happens. So they were waiting to see what would happen as a result of their donation. And sadly, in many instances, the donation was received, but there was no acknowledgement to the donor. There was no communication about how these funds were going to be used. And so as a result, they stopped donating. And they estimated that this was a loss for this particular organization of between $20,000 and $100,000. These are losses that we cannot afford to take. If we put in place some measures to ensure that we are disciplined in how we manage the resources that are entrusted to us, if we keep the lines of communication open, then not only will we have the resources that we need for today, but we have an opportunity to attract more resources for tomorrow. So I've walked you through the Grass Faith framework. I've talked about how it applies to donors and investors that may be looking to support your cause. Your next question might be, okay, Tam, how do I put all of these pieces together? Well, the good news is that I've taken my old lending background and the things that I've gained from the conversations with these donors and investors, and I've combined them into what I refer to as the Beacon of Excellence Impact Scorecard. So this is your cheat sheet where I am literally walking you through the key areas that donors and investors are looking for. So this allows you to start getting your house in order, to get prepared for the big $84 trillion transfer of resources that will be happening over the next 2 decades. This is our opportunity to attract resources and use them for kingdom impact. But we not only have to be able to articulate our unique spiritual calling, but prove to these donors and investors that we will be good stewards. So taking the time to go through this scorecard is going to set you up for success. So your next question may be, okay, Tam, you've convinced me. How do I get my hands on this Beacon of Excellence scorecard? Well, the first step is going to be joining us for the How to Receive Millions Masterclass. In it, I'll share more insights on what I've learned in these conversations with major donors and investors, and I'll introduce you to the scorecard. Then there will be an opportunity for you to receive even more training, mentorship, and support so that you can apply the principles of the scorecard to your business. So be sure to click the link below this episode to register for our next masterclass and start getting your house in order so that you are in position to receive. The thing to remember about achieving business success, attracting funding, and making a community impact is that you cannot do it alone. It all comes down to relationships. The relationship that you have with God, the relationships that you build with people that can support your cause. So take the step today to register for our masterclass. We'll show you how to build those genuine relationships that allow you to grow and scale your mission. The world is waiting for you to step into your calling and to make the impact that only you can make. Join us today. If you've enjoyed this episode of The Beacon Show, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on another episode. I'll be sharing my insights as well as bringing on the show ministry leaders, nonprofit leaders, and entrepreneurs who are making a difference in the world. This is the place where you can come to get insights that help you to grow and scale your mission. Go ahead and subscribe today.